Welcome to tonight's video. We're going to be looking at what comes next. We finished the tuning into our topic, and now we're actually going to move into the heart of inquiry. My objectives for the video tonight is I want to go back and talk about the kinds of thinking skills that you're going to need to be able to apply when you come to my class from now on. If you're one of those students, and we've talked about this a lot since school started, if you're used to coming in and just sitting there and zoning out and waiting for me to tell you what to do, starting tomorrow, that's not going to work anymore. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kinds of thinking you need to be prepared to do. I'm also going to clarify what the work we're going to be doing together during that 20 minutes focus lesson looks like and why we're going to be doing it, and to clarify the kinds of work that you can be doing during work time, the choices you can make and why you would make each of those choices. When we talk about thinking skills in an inquiry classroom, and a workshop classroom is an inquiry classroom, inquirers need to be able to think logically, to be able to add up the information you gather and make sure that it makes sense to you. You need to be able to think creatively, to find information in unexpected places, to be able to look at theme, characterization, symbolism, and take meaning from that. You need to be able to think empathetically, perhaps to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, to be able to take on a different point of view from your own. And finally, you need to be able to be a reflective thinker. You need to be able to look back over the thinking you have done. You need to be able to ask yourself, what do I understand and why do I understand it? What do I have and what do I need? And you also need to be able to research and investigate in different ways. Research is not just about going to the library, clicking on the internet, getting a book, and copying the notes. You have to be able to think outside the box, and you have to think about investigate if you're going to be a successful inquirer. And the third skill I'm going to talk about today, and it's huge, is that if you're going to be successful in a workshop classroom, you have to be able to manage your own learning and your own behavior and to work independently. You have set your own course in my class. You've chosen your questions, you've chosen your goals, and you are working towards gathering information that meets those goals, that answers those questions that you can share with the other people in your class. If you cannot manage your own path towards those answers, if you cannot manage your own behavior, then there's no place for you in a workshop classroom. And if that's the case, then I'm going to have to remove you from our workshop population and find another way to negotiate the 8th grade curriculum with you, which won't be nearly as interesting, I'm afraid. So think about these 3 skills as we go through the rest of this video. All right, the next kind of steps, or the next places that we're going to go in our work to uncover what we think about identity and where it comes from and how it's formed, is we're going to begin to gather information to try and answer the questions that we've raised. We're going to try and use that information to see if there's any more questions that need to be answered in order to get to our big question of who am I? And we're also going to use that information to challenge what we think we know, to challenge what we think we believe about identity, and to challenge what we think is important about it. And the finding out piece is basically focused on looking at the information that's out there from other sources about our topic. The other piece of it is the sorting out piece, and that's once we have this information, and once it's raised more questions, and once we realize that our beliefs are being challenged, then we have to kind of resort to sorting the information out. We have to be able to think critically, to organize the information, to be able to clarify, to reflect on it and think, okay, what have I learned and what do I still need to know? What of this supports what I think I know? How much of this challenges? Why is it a challenge? And how do I feel about the challenge? Sorting out also means deciding of all the information you've gathered, which can you use and which can really isn't going to be helpful. And finally, sorting out is all about taking the information that you've decided is useful, taking the information you've clarified, and using it to create new knowledge, using it to write new questions to pursue, and using it to either create new beliefs or to adjust what we believed before we began. The 2 steps are very flexible. We find out and then we sort out, and then we go back to find out more, and then we go back and sort that out, and then we go back and we find out more. So over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be going back and forth between the finding out piece and the sorting out piece. Sometimes finding out is going to happen in focus lessons, and you'll do the sorting out independently during work time. And sometimes we'll find out in one focus lesson and sort it out together in the next. But this is the basis, or these are the activities that we're going to be doing. So what is this focusing in and sorting out going to look like in the focus lesson? Well, it's going to look like reading. It's going to be reading to see how other authors have explored this concept of identity and how we get our identity, how they explored it in short stories, how they explored it in literary nonfiction, how they explored it in poetry. We're going to be looking at how authors can take their views of the world and put it into literature for us to dig deep and pull out. And in order to do that kind of thoughtful, critical reading, we're going to be annotating. We're going to be annotating for signs that the author has left us in the text that will lead us to theme and character development and symbolism, and to draw important inferences about what the author is saying about the world and his or her identity and how the world impacted that. And finally, we're going to be thinking critically together about what those authors' beliefs and ideas say to us, how they complement, contradict, or change our own beliefs or answer our own questions. We're going to be thinking critically about why the author might think the way they think. We're going to be thinking critically about where these ideas might have come from. And in the pink or purple box, you can see the inquiry skills that are going to be used during the focus lesson, about thinking logically, creatively, empathetically, and reflectively. So once we have gathered our information through reading, annotating, and thinking critically, work time will follow, and you're going to have a choice of how to use the information that the focus lesson has provided you. The next 2 slides are important because after every day's focus lesson, I'm going to take 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you, what are you going to do for the next 30 minutes of my class? What are you going to do with this information? And I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to record it. I'm going to come and conference with you, and you're going to be accountable for the information. So here are your initial choices. One thing you can do with the information we've gathered from the focus lesson is you can work with it in your writer's notebook. You can take the work time to reflect on what you've learned. You can use it to reflect in writing on what can you personally infer from the work we did together. You can use the 30 minutes in your notebook to think about how does what this author says fit with what you know, what you need to know, and where you'd like to go in your own inquiry projects. So you need to be able to investigate other people's thoughts in kind of different ways. Choice B is also in your writer's notebook, but it goes kind of a different way, where choice A takes someone else's ideas that you received in the focus lesson. Choice B puts you back in your own head to gather your own ideas. Maybe it will be entries about memories of important times in your life. Maybe there'll be entries about memories of important people in your life. Maybe there'll be entries about important challenges you faced. Maybe there'll be lists of fears that you want to gather and think more about. Maybe you want to go back in and spend some time in your timeline. Maybe you want to take things out of your hand graphic and see how they fit in your timeline, and are they a positive or a negative. So choice A and choice B are both writer's notebook choices, but choice A is thinking about someone else's ideas, and choice B is going into your own head and gathering your own thoughts about your questions and your beliefs. Choice C is to continue to gather more information. So instead of sorting out the information you've gathered like A and B does, choice C is to continue to gather. And those choices could be to read more. You could ask for more short fiction. to read, to annotate, to pull out those authors' themes, and to see what other people say within poetry and in fiction. Or you may ask to read literary nonfiction or memoir to see how other people have tried to answer your question. Memoir is other people's stories of important moments in their lives. Or you could go a completely different direction and look for an expert source. You could look for psychological or sociological definitions. You could look for research. What do the experts say about personality? What kind of studies have been done? Why do the experts say it's important? So each of these three choices are gathering more information for your inquiry, but they're gathering different kinds of information. Make sure these last two slides are clear, because you will be expected to use the information without a lot of prompting in the next class. Remember that our goal for all of this is that we're looking to find new ways to think about things that are important to us. You can't become better readers and writers unless you're reading and writing about things that interest you. Another one of our goals is to find lots of different ways to answer our questions and to choose the ways that feel best to us. A third goal is to gather lots and lots of ideas for your final products. I'd much rather work from a position of too much than from a position of not enough, because I expect you to find the answers that fit you. I expect your reading and your writing to change how you think and how you are. And finally, remember that your goal through all of this work is to improve the reading and the writing skills that you targeted for your unit goals this time. A WSQ reminder, I expect you to be an active viewer. An active viewer doesn't mean you turn the video on, let it play while you text, watch the TV, or go somewhere else. I expect you to review the video. I expect you to use the pause button. I expect you to rewind and watch it again if you need to. I expect you to take good notes in your IAN. We're going to be doing more with these notes. I gave you some freedom at the beginning, and I'm not pleased with what I see. So I have learned from you that I need to be a little more rigorous about your notes. I expect you to take the same kind of notes for the videos that you would take if you were in class under my nose taking notes. You should take down what I say as well as what is on the slides, in your own words, of course. I expect you to write an effective summary. Again, the summaries I've seen are not great. So tonight's video asks you to write a guided summary. And all that means is I have provided you with 3 questions, and I expect your summary to answer these 3 questions. In your summary, please tell me what the purposes are for the work we're going to be doing for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Tell me the kinds of work we are going to be doing during the focus lesson time and why that's the work we're going to be doing. And please explain what work you can choose to do during work time and why you would choose it. Your summary is to be a paragraph, not a list of 3 answers, please. And finally, you need 1 good question to share with the class. It can be a question you still have about this content, or it can be a higher order thinking question that you use the stems you're going to get in class to help you answer. But I am going to be checking for all of these. That's all the content I have for you tonight. And so now, you may dance.